Hi everyone, today we are talking about AWS EKS Fargate Data Plan Logging. We'll cover how to collect logs from your application in AWS EKS Fargate and see them in the central place, CloudWatch. We'll do a quick hands-on demo using Terraform and kubectl command line to create an EKS cluster with Fargate log enabled. The demo will cost around 40 cents if you run the demo in the US East 1 region. Let's start. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lian Duan and I have developed for over 20 years, specializing in DevOps and cloud security. You can find all the video tutorial content and code in my GitLab repository. The links are below. In today's video, we'll cover logging in EKS Fargate, how it works, why logging is important, how to reduce logging cost, and hands-on demo. Let's go to first topic, EKS Fargate Data Plan Logging Architecture. The diagram shows the logging architecture of EKS Fargate using a tool called FluentBit. Imagine your apps are like certain friends. They talk a lot about what they are doing. The talk about means logs. FluentBit is translator for the logs coming from your running application in the cloud. There is how it works. We'll go to each component one by one. Containers in pod. Think of pods as containers that host your applications. In this case, we have two containers, container 1 and container 2 in a pod. AWS Fargate is like manager that handles the service for running your containers. It makes sure everything running smoothly without you needing to worry about the underlying infrastructure. Fairlines container, which runs the FluentBit. FluentBit collections logs for your application containers and process them. Pod execution role credentials. These are like special key that give you pods permission to send logs. Elected network interface. This is like a network cable that connects your pods to the outside world, allowing them to send log out. There is logging destinations. Once FluentBit processes a log, it sends them to the different destinations. There can be CloudWatch, a service that lets you monitor and see all the logs in the one place. S3, a storage service where logs can be saved and stored for later use. Other word is lower cost. Elective search, a search engine that helps you quickly find and analyze logs. Partner cloud services. This includes third-party services like Datadog, etc., which provide advanced monitoring and logging features. In summary, the FluentBit tool collects logs from your application containers running on the AWS Fargate, and then process these logs and send them to destinations like AWS services and third-party cloud. What is benefits use the logs? Fargate Data Plan Logging is important for several reasons. One place holds all your apps log. If you have 1,000 containers, go to 1,000 containers, check logs is painful. Troubleshooting issue. It helps identify and fix the problem. Monitor performance. That helps track how well your applications and FluentBit are working. Logging isn't free, but there are ways to keep costs down. In production, keep logs for a set time, like 7 days, and then archive and delete them to save money. There is a cheap way to store old logs compared to keeping them in CloudWatch. The process is called archive. We can do this with UI, shell script, or Lambda function. Let me know if you want a video on this. Other tip is change the log level on the fly. When we need more details, we can change the app log level from error to debug to retrieve more information. Before we start hands-on demo, make sure you got things ready. An AWS free tier account, Terraform. You can find the official document for installing Terraform here. Also, I have a video on installing Terraform on Mac, Linux, and Windows. We are using an AWS user with admin role permission for Terraform. Configure your AWS account on kubectl command line interface, following the step-by-step guideline here. If you have any questions, just drop them below. I will happy to help you out. Let's go over our hands-on demo. First, we are using Terraform to create an EKS cluster with Fargate Data Plan. Update FluentBit config. I'll show the key config in later slide. Deploy an application. The app will generate a log without any input. Next, log into the AWS Management Console and check the log in the CloudWatch. I'll show you how to change the retention period from UI and using AWS command line. Finally, we'll clean up the aws EKS resources to save cost. There are key things for the config Fargate logging. The resource AWS IAM policy allows EKS Fargate to create and manage the logs in CloudWatch, ensuring that all necessary log-related actions are permitted for the log operator. Next, the other key things for enable Fargate logging is Fargate config. Let's open the YAML file to share more detail. You can download or clone all the files from my GitLab repository. The AWS Fargate-fluentbit.yaml file has all the config detail. Let me show the content. With highlighted lines, we'll create the AWS observability namespace and labeled to indicate observability is enabled. Second, ConfigMap. A configured map named AWS Logging is created in AWS observability namespace. The config map contains configurations to enable FluentBit to send the log to the CloudWatch. The configuration in the map, first we can see this log is enabled when the value equal to true. And there are two filters for the log processing. Next, for the output config, it sends the log to the US East 1 region. The log will stored in the log group. The name is /AWS/EKS plus cluster name /Fargate. The cluster name we have to hard code because this configuration map do not support env parameter. Also, there's retention period is 7 days. We cannot add input part in the FluentBit config based on the AWS Fargate official document. That's all. Let me clean up the screen to start our demo. First, run Terraform init command to download all the Terraform resources. Next, run Terraform apply command to create the cluster. Yes, usually this process taking 20 minutes. My video create AWS EKS Fargate using Terraform has the Terraform man.tl file details line by line. The other way we can check the EKS cluster create status. Log into the AWS Management Console. Please make sure you use the same user who is configured with the Terraform. In Services search area, type EKS, select Elective Kubernetes Service. The cluster is creating. Click the cluster name to check the detail. Creating in the process. Refresh the screen. The cluster status is active. Let me check the compute. The Fargate profiles are creating. We have 3 namespace part of the Fargate profile. kubectl for the core DNS pods. AWS observability for the FluentBit config map. My log generator app will deploy to the logging demo namespace. Refresh again. The 3 namespaces are created successfully. Back to our command window. The add-on core DNS still creating. Open other tab. Run kube rollout restart command to redeploy the core DNS. This command will speed up the delete processing. The core DNS deploying is not in effect our today's demo, so let's run kubectl apply command to deploy the FluentBit config map. namespace and the ConfigMap are created successfully. Next, deploy our log generation pod. Use the same kubectl apply command. Back to the AWS management console to check the log group. Search CloudWatch. Click CloudWatch. In the left side navigation menu, select Log Groups. Click Log Groups. Refresh. There's 3 log groups. First is for the control plan. My video, EKS control plan logging, has all details. Second is Fargate log. Click Open it. You can see there are 2 pods log. Click see the more detail. The logs information auto-generation by my app. Back to the top level. The third one is fluentbit log. It automatically created by the fluentbit itself. Open it, we can see the fluentbit start information. We see the fluentbit log, status log, retention is never expired. We can select the log group and in Actions menu change the retention period like 1 day. So you see it changed. There's other way we can change it. Open the command window. Use command aws log, put retention policy and log group name with retention period. Enter. Back to the console, we can check the result. It should be changing from 1 day to 1 week. Refresh the page. You see the change successfully. Latest things clean up. Remove all the resources while keep our costs down. First, destroy our application deployments. Clean up the screen. Next, run Terraform destroy to clean up all the resources created by the Terraform. Yes, the cleanup process will take around 10 minutes. Back to our slide. That's all for today's video. Today we learned about AWS EKS Fargate Data Plan Logging and do hands-on demo. Thank you for watching and see you in the next time.